love to introduce Dr. Cheyenne Bryant.
Hi, I see some familiar faces. I see some new faces. I'm going to make my way up to the stage because I walked the long way to burn calories. I did it on purpose. It was all in the plan. So we're going to do it one more time. I'm going to say, good morning. Courtney, you made it. Oh, yay. I'm going to say good morning. How are you doing? And then we are going to bring our vibration to a level that's unmatched. We're going to say, we're doing amazing, or make some type of noise, okay? So that we can bring the energy in this room. Can we do that together as a family? Okay. So, good morning. How's everyone doing today? Yes. Now we can rock and roll. I don't have a clicker. You're going to click for me? You can? Okay, awesome. So, I know that Carolyn told you a little bit about me. I'm going to go quick so that I don't run too much over because I'd rather you have the information than know about me. But Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, I am a psychology expert and life coach in private practice. I'm also the on-camera life coach for MTV's biggest show on TV, Teen Mom Family Reunion. And I'm not bragging, I'm just really proud. So we got nominated last year as MTV's 2022 the biggest unscripted #1 reality show on TV. So pretty exciting, and it airs season 2 in January. So if you're bored, if you're not doing anything, it's a Friday night and you have some tea or some wine, check us out. I'm also the founder of Dr. Bryant Institute, where we provide wellness workshops, mental health workshops, one-on-one therapy, coaching, and so forth, and Dr. Bryant Foundation. And I am excited to be your facilitator today, taking a deeper dive into wellness. Our last workshop was an intro to wellness, but you won't be lost if you missed the last one because it tailors right into it. And so are y'all ready to rock and roll? Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's do it. So our agenda for today, right? We're going to talk about burnout and grief. Burnout's going to be our first segment before we take a small break. We're going to talk about the definition, examples of burnout, the effects of it, some misconceptions about burnout, the tools to prevent it, and codependency, because it falls right into that, all right? And then our second half will be the definition and examples of some grief, the stages of grief, especially being that we're in the holiday season. Grief really takes place a lot more prominent around this time and in this season. And it's normal, but it's challenging and it gets really dark. And I think it's important for folks to understand how to find that light switch in their darkness, right? We've all been there. I've been there. I don't like the dark. I remember being a little girl and I was afraid of the dark, obviously for a reason. But the light switch coming on is something that's really important. And I want to teach y'all how to do that, not just once, but how to be able to do it as a lifestyle and lifetime tool, okay? And then how do you process this grief, right? And then how do you know if yourself or a loved one is even experiencing grief? A lot of times we're experiencing things, and because we may have seen it in our household, it becomes a norm for us. So we don't even know that we are experiencing that as an adult, because that's been all we know. It's learned behavior. And then we're thinking that we're healthy and we're normal, but we're extremely unhealthy. We're dissipating and demising inside, and we don't even know that we're walking zombies that are completely dead inside, but we're living just through oxygen. And that's not a good place to be. And it's a human right that everyone has a peace of mind, right, and has mental health and has a great quality of life. But it takes work. Those things take work, okay? And then the importance of self-care, and then we're going to an open dialogue of questions and comments. So if you have something to say or if something resonated with you, raise your hand, go for it. If you have a question, please ask me. I'm an open book. I'm here to be of service to you. I'm here to provide you whatever information you need. Use me up, please, okay? And the only question that's a dumb question is the question you take with yourself and never ask it, all right? And that's not even dumb. You just need to have a little more courage to ask it. So let's jump in. So burnout, right, it is a psychological syndrome that results from what? Chronic workplace stress, right? That hasn't been, keyword, successfully managed. Everyone's smiling. I don't know, y'all. Y'all want to talk to me about something? So it's when it hasn't been successfully managed. This is where it gets tricky. Although, right, we look at it like it is our employer's responsibility, our job to manage that. It's not, it's ours. It's our job to manage that and to know when we have had enough and to know what we need and when to have those conversations with ourselves, our families, and our employers, okay? What are those examples? You're overwhelmingly exhausted. You're topped off, right? You're just exhausted. You're fatigued within your emotions. You have this negative feeling all the time, like there's this heavy cloud hanging over your head, and you can't even pinpoint why. You're just exhausted, and you feel negative. You don't have the energy to pull from anything, right? You're on E, and you're totally detached from your job. You wake up, you don't want to be there. When you're there, you don't want to be there, and you can't wait to leave. And when you're at home, you're dreading the fact that you have to go back the next day. And that's real. Sense of ineffectiveness. No matter what you do, you don't feel effective. Even if it's not pertaining to your work, it could be in a relationship. But when you're at burnout stage, you're detached from everything that has to do with something being positive or you being effective in that space. And then you end up having a lack of accomplishment. Because whenever you're on E, you have nothing to give, right? Giving takes recharge. Giving takes energy. And so these are some of the signs. There's some other examples, but they pretty much fall underneath that, right? Effects and danger of burnout. With stress, when you're stressed out, there's an end to that stress. You can see that once this project is done in these 3 months, right, my stress load will lift. There's an end result to that. Burnout is an ongoing cycle that continues to go and go and go. Now, if you catch burnout at the very beginning of your burnout, it usually takes about 11 weeks for you to move past and process through it. But if you don't, there's folks that take literally between 1 to 7 years to get out of burnout. The reason why is because people look at burnout as being a daily impairment that they're feeling until it becomes their norm. Folks look at stress as something that they can, again, control because there's an end to stress, meaning I'm involved in a stressful situation or a stressful relationship, so if I end it, the stress can go away. Burnout's not that easy. And it comes in and it creeps, and then it stays and it buys real estate in you, and you end up burnt out. And it's so easy to get in, and I'm telling you, it's extremely challenging to pull out, right? And so it's pretty much you investing too much of yourself in whatever that may be, work, relationships, a project. And then the key thing, doing nothing to restore yourself. I know the first workshop, bless you, we talked a lot about self-care and the importance of self-care and the benefits of self-care and how it recharges you and it gets you to a place of being able to prevent stress, prevent depression, prevent burnout, and have more effective relationships and be a more effective, healthy person. So the key thing of this is to remember you have to do what? What's highlighted? Restore, because restore does what? It repairs. And you can't repair until you can restore. So some misconceptions about burnout, right? Burnout is not a mental illness. How many folks, whether you're into the whole mental health thing or not, never considered burnout to be a mental illness? Seriously. Yeah. I was one of them years ago. I was like, burnout's a mental illness? Like, I'm just fatigued. I'm just exhausted. I need some rest. I need a vacation. Like, there's no way this is in the DSM. There's no way this is a diagnosis. Look at this. It's classified as a mental illness caused by unmanaged stress at work. That is a mental illness. People go on disability because of burnout when they are diagnosed with that. This stuff is real. You cannot be productive at work or within yourself when you are burnt out. That's just not a street term. That's a real clinical term. Burnt out. Okay? Burnt out and depression are the same. No. They cross-sector a lot. Very similar symptoms and feelings, right, or behaviors that you may exhibit, but they're different. Right? They have similar symptoms, low energy, trouble sleeping, lack of focus, but burnout and depression are different. Very different. The interesting thing, though, is depression has many levels, right? You have minor, major, episodic, all these different depressive levels. Burnout, it's a lot more black and white. So with depression, you can have depressive symptoms and not be depressed. But with burnout, when you get to that fatigue space of depletion, you're burnt out. There's no symptoms of it. You're all the way there. The cool thing about it is because it has that black or white spectrum, you can feel it before you get over to the other side of it. Versus depression does that creeping mechanism where before you know it, you're like, lights out. Oh my God, lights out, right? Does burnout go away on its own? Absolutely not. It doesn't at all. It worsens unless you address the underlying causing issues. And it doesn't mean you address how you're feeling. That's the fruit. That's the fruit I feel angry. I feel depleted. I'm exhausted. I have no interest in anything I got going on. That's the fruit that grows on your tree. And what is the root? What caused the burnout? What exactly at work caused it? Is it because you're on too many Zoom meetings after you worked 8-hour day? Is it because you're on Zoom meetings on the weekends when those are supposed to be your recharge self-care days? Is it because you're not taking self-care days and you're using that time to invest in the projects you have to get done for work? You have to find out the root and core of what's causing it, because you cannot just treat the symptoms because they come back. Just like cutting down or pruning leaves to a tree or fruit, right? The next season it grows back the exact same harvest that it had. If you don't cut out those roots, you get the exact same fruit. That's not just for burnout, but I want y'all to apply that in everything in your life. Whatever harvests on that root, that cause, right, will continue to harvest if you don't plow out from the root. So don't waste your time doing all this work to just prune your issues or concerns, i.e. your tree in your garden, when you could have spent that time rooting out the root so you never have to deal with that issue again. That's called boundaries. Alrighty? And then tools to prevent burnout. Track your stress levels. So, okay, Dr. Bryant, how do I measure my stress levels? I'm always stressed out. How do I measure my stress levels, right? So you measure your own depletion. How do I feel today? That is your measuring tool. How do I feel? Do I feel excited? Do I feel energized? Right? Not do I feel rested, because rest can also oftentimes deceive us. We can feel like we need more rest, but we're still excited. We're still happy. We're still in a good place. We're still positive, right? What is your interest level in things that you're usually interested in? Are you interested in texting your accountability partner that you text good morning to every morning? Are you interested in that after work happy hour you go to, or the Taco Tuesdays? Or do you feel loss of interest in that? Are you feeling like you want to isolate? Because isolation breeds depression. That's how you measure yourself. Am I feeling like I want to isolate just because? From my village or my support group or my friends or families that I usually like to engage with? That's how you measure that, right? Identify what's stressing me out. These are all conversations that have to do with self, coming into sense of self. These are conversations that take place either for folks who meditate, like myself, I meditate, and for those who don't, who sit by themselves, which is still a form of meditation, and give yourself 30 minutes, an hour a day. You deserve that. It's self-care. And ask yourself, okay, what is stressing me out? Let me identify them. Write down your stressors so that you can avoid them. So you can see them written down and go, oh, wait a minute. Stressor number 3 is on its way. No deal. Not doing it. Not doing it. Stressor number 2, just text me. Not doing it. Set a boundary. If the boundary is blocking, if the boundary is not responding, oh, I just got an email from work. It stresses me out, and I already time blocked 2 hours for me time. Not responding. It's not 5 o'clock yet. Not doing it. This is self-care, which is self-love, the epitome of self-love. And it's not selfish. It's the most selfless thing you can do for yourself and your loved ones. It's to take time for yourself to be filled up so you have something to give them. Anyways, otherwise you're on E. And you're no good for yourself or anybody else, right? Build a support network. Build a support network. Very important. Who's your village? Who's your go-to? Who are the people that you can sit with in your leggings, sweats, pajamas, hair in a bird's nest, eating a big pizza, ice cream, whatever you do. I'm self-projecting, obviously. I like pizza, vegetarian. I like my vanilla ice cream. Those are my what I do with my village. And you can just be you authentically. You don't have to put on this professional attire. You don't have to put on this articulate, verbiage or language. You can just be who the heck you are in that space. That's what your support network is. They're not folks that you have to be Zoom ready for. You're just hanging out having coffee or having nothing or having wine or whatever you guys do. But you got to be able to be in that space of freedom and liberation. Because if you're always on, you will burn out for sure. For sure. All right? Speak up for yourself. Have a voice. We just talked about that. After measuring and feeling that, hey, I'm burnt out, I'm feeling some ways that are not conducive to my health or my happiness, speak up to friends, family, your partners, your loved ones, your bosses at work, your employer. Speak up on that. This is your life, and this is your health, and this is your well-being, and this stuff is important, and you're valuable. And your voice shows the value that you hold. And remember, healthy people do healthy things. So a healthy person, friend, boss will understand when you're saying, it's just too much. I'm at my cap off, right? And they want you healthy. I have 12 employees within Dr. Bryant Institute that are on my e-staff and other life coaches and therapists. I want them healthy. So if they come to me and say that they're at burnout, I don't want them seeing our clients or our patients. I don't want them seeing that. And I don't need them in a meeting fog brain and they can't function. And I believe it's a human right and I love them. So I want them to be healthy. So I'm saying, hey, take the day off. Or I missed the meeting today. You can send an email. We'll send you an update of what's going on. So have your voice, because no one's going to advocate for you like you will. And again, your voice is a part of your self-love. It says I'm valuable, and I need this, and I'm going to speak on behalf of that. Learn stress management techniques, right? Which is some breathing. Breathe in and out. This is a big one. Breathe in and out, right? That's why we said breathe in, some stress techniques before we go into codependency. But breathe in and out, right? Get in contact with what works for you. For me, it's meditation. For me, it's working out. For me, it's my girl time. For me, it's my guy time. For me, it's long conversations and long walks. Or it's a nice vacation where I can just kind of do nothing again. I found that I'm like a do nothing person. And I remember having this conversation with myself. I was like, Dr. Bryant was asking Cheyenne, I'm Dr. Cheyenne Bryant, Dr. Bryant asked Cheyenne, you're really lazy. And Cheyenne was like, no, I'm not, right? And Dr. Bryant's like, yeah, because unless you're working or you're in Dr. Bryant mode, you like to have your sweats on, hair in a bird's nest, and do nothing. And sit on the couch or go for a walk or have my earbud in and have conversations and no makeup on. And I'm like, yeah, that's my me time. Right? So if you're a do-nothing person, doing nothing is doing a lot for your recharge. Manage your stress. You want to be preventative, not interventive when it comes to stress. Intervention is possible, but sometimes it can be too late. And when you start to prevent things, you live a life that's ebb and flow, where you're always in a peace of mind, you're always in a place of healthiness, and you're always in a place of balance. Your homeostasis, right, is always balanced because you're not allowing yourself to get out of whack. Your self-love comes in and it speaks on behalf of you and says, one more and you'll be burnt out. One more and it's a wrap. And you have to listen to that love bug that's in you that advocates for you, because you know you best. No one knows you like you know yourself, right? So codependency. Who can give a definition of what codependency means? Anyone, just go for it. Don't worry about being right. Just go for it. What is codependency? Who said that? You said controlling? In what ways?
Trying to control their emotions. Oh, sorry. Trying to control the other person's emotions.
Okay, you're on point. And then how does their emotions affect you if you're codependent?
It could either cause you stress or feel anxious,
Yep.
emotional.
100%. Good job. Anyone else just want to give their little short definition of codependency?
So intimidating. Probably holding on to another person's stress or feelings and treating it like your own.
Yeah, all that stuff. Yes, great job. Thank you. In a nutshell, codependency is needing someone else to be the way you need them to be for you to feel okay. Giving every bit of your power away. I need you to wake up every morning and tell me good morning, or my day's screwed. You didn't wake up and tell me good morning? Screw the whole day. I'm mad. And not only that, I'm going to gaslight you. It's your fault. I would have had a good day had you said good morning. But you didn't say good morning. So I got a problem now. And you're the problem that I have. So next time you need to do better. Codependency. Right? If you don't show up in these ways, then you fluctuate or influence how I feel. Which means what? You can't be authentic. So I rob you of being who you are and showing up in your authenticity. And I'm needing you to conform and be in a box, because I've already created a box that says this is my idea of what works for me. And if you don't fit that idea, you don't work for me. And the reason why you don't is because it impacts me in ways that doesn't allow me to thrive with you. Now I'm in survival mode because you're not showing up in the way that I need you to show up. And the person on the other end of the codependent individual or relationship, they are pretzeling themselves and bending in ways that they can and can't bend until they break. And then when they break, who's there to save them? Not the person who's codependent, because they need you to be a certain way. And if breaking is not in that box, everybody, you're in trouble. Do you see the tensity of codependent relationships and how unhealthy and toxic they are? It strips one person of everything of who they are and their sense of self. It makes a relationship one-sided, powered. There's no leverage. One person holds all the power. And then if something doesn't happen pertaining to those conditions, the relationship suffers, especially the person who is codependent, believe it or not, right? Signs of codependency: poor boundaries with others. That is for the person who is with the codependent person. You have poor boundaries with them because your boundaries would say, wait a minute, there's no box that I fit in unless it's a box that I create for myself. If that's what I choose to do, right? Or hold on, I'm going to be myself and I would like for you to love me with no conditions because I have the right to be human, right? Low self-esteem, caretaking. You're always taking care of them, always taking care of their emotions, always making sure they're okay. But who's taking care of you? And is it a two-way relationship or is it one-sided and this person has all the power? Not because they've taken it, because what? You've given it away. Because healthy boundaries don't allow people to have when you give your power away. Boundaries is you keeping your power. No boundaries is you saying, here, go ahead and take it. Just do whatever you want with me. I'll fit in your box, right? Obsessions. An obsessive relationship is not healthy, right? Love is freeing. Love is healthy. And obsession is toxicity. A need for control. You said it over there. A need for control, right? Difficulty in making decisions. Why? Because you're not making any decisions without your codependent partner until they okay it. Because if you make the wrong decision, your codependency partner, or you yourself, if you're the codependent person, is going to have a problem processing that decision if it's not in alignment with what they want. Are you guys keeping up with me? If it's becoming too much, raise your hand because I want to make sure I explain it to where you get it, because codependency this is one of the nucleus for a lot of depression, suicidal ideation, burnout, loss of sense of self, unauthenticity, toxic relationships, no self-care. This is really huge, and a lot of folks experience this and don't know it. Trouble identifying or communicating what you feel or what you need. Now, the codependent person who's running the relationship, they have no problem identifying with what they need. Does that make sense? Because you're in their box. Or if it's you, they're in your box. It's whoever's in that box who has a problem with identifying with what they feel or what they need. Because you can't do it if it's not in alignment with what the person needs for them to be okay. Right? Obviously, that's going to bring someone to anger, emotion, and anger or frustration, and have emotional reaction towards things. Because guess what you're doing? You're suppressing who you are. And anytime we're not free, we're in bondage. And anytime we're in bondage, we are frustrated and we are angry, and it creates unhealthy toxicity and dysfunctional behaviors in ourselves and everything around us. Right? How do you heal from codependency? Start being honest with yourself and your partner. What does that look like? Hey, look, I really love you. I'm going to talk from the person who was in the box. I really love you. And I didn't love myself as much before. I've done some work, and I'm starting to love myself. And at the expense of loving myself, I don't like the box that I've allowed you to put me in. And so I'm not asking permission to come out. I'm just telling you that I'm coming out the box. And it's going to be uncomfortable for you and for me, and I'm hoping that we could work through this. But if not, my plan is to love myself enough to be okay with or without you. That's the person in the box. Challenging, but that's healthy. And it breeds a beautiful, beautiful, healthy result within yourself. And then you start to calibrate healthy people and relationships, right? If you're the codependent person, it looks like, hey, I've been working on myself, and I know that I've been doing some things that are very unhealthy. I would like for you to forgive me, and I ask for your forgiveness. It's going to be challenging because I'm used to controlling everything, including you. But I'm going to need you to help me and be my accountability partner. So when I come in with that stronghold, and when I'm coming in very controlling, and I'm not allowing you to be you, then I would like for you to bring that to my attention so I can back up and deal with my stuff on my own, because I'm self-projecting onto you my stuff, my insecurities, and my issues. And usually, almost 100% of the time, the codependent person is an abandoned person who's suffering from abandonment issues. So in their illusion, their distorted thinking, if they put you in a box, you can't move and do things like the person who broke their heart, which usually is mom or dad, from the beginning. So they clench tight, they find people who they can control, so they can, with an illusion, control the narrative so they won't end up in another heartbreaking situation. Does that make sense? Yeah? We're all trying to protect ourselves from the pain we first felt. Some of us go about in an unhealthy way, and some go about in a healthy way. Most unhealthy until we get it right. That's just the truth. Most of us start off unhealthy, right? Stop the negative thinking. Stop telling yourself that you need this person for you to be okay, or you need to show up in this way to be accepted. Not true. You're perfect just the way you are. That's why you were created that way. The only problem most of us do is we don't step into our power and be who we are, so we don't attract what we're meant to attract, our village and our people and what fits us. And when you're in a room full of yous that fit you, you're free. But you can't get to that place unless you first free who you are. And people love you at the level that you love yourself. So you want to know what kind of love you have within yourself? Take inventory of how the folks around you love on you or don't. That's how you measure your self-love. Because we show people how to treat us, not verbally, but through how we show up for ourselves. And whatever somebody has done or is doing, you've already done or you are doing to yourself. Period. Because if it was foreign to you, you wouldn't know how to feel about it. You only know how to feel about it because you've experienced it, one way or the other. You know what a green light is because we live here in the States, and we tell everyone, they've told us green light means stop. But if I put a purple light up and told you stop and give you a ticket and you ran it, you would say, I didn't know that because it was foreign to you. Okay? Take breaks. Definitely give yourself breaks. And be okay with telling your partner or your boss or your mom or whoever it is, I need a break. And a break doesn't mean months. A break could be 10 minutes. I know that when I'm having conversations with, it could be my mother, and we're best of friends. There's times where I'm like, Mom, I just need a break to process that. Or I've told, I've maybe, told a guy I'm dating, like, I need some time to think about that. Like, I love myself enough to say I need to process that, because it's better to process before you produce than produce and figure out how the heck did you get to that process. You always want to process before you produce. And in that process space, what are you asking yourself? How do I want to show up? Number one, how do I want to show up? Will I be proud if I show up in that way? How do I want to show up? Not how do they want me to show up? No codependency. How do I want to show up? Will I be proud if I just rip this person a new one? And sometimes that's warranted. I'm not condoning, but it's warranted. Or do I not want to do that? First question. Second question is, what message do I want them to receive? And ladies, I'm going to get on you for a minute, just for a minute. For a minute. Here I go, right? For a minute. Guys, I got y'all next. I got you next. Listen, ladies. The best question you can ask yourself in a relationship, especially with a male counterpartner, anyone, but especially a man, what is the message I want him to receive? Not how do I feel about it. What is the message? Not what am I upset about. What is the message I want him to receive? But it also works better in a work setting. It works better in a friendship setting. And what that looks like is, I'm talking to her. She's my best friend. And I was having a bad weekend. And you went to out of town with your boyfriend and you just got with this guy and I'm mad because that was our weekend and I needed you, okay? Instead of me giving her a 30-minute conversation about all of my feelings, which is called an emotional dump onto her, now I'm self-projecting onto her, okay? I ask myself, how do I want to show up? I want to show up as a best friend because this is my girl. And I want her to know that I love her, but I am disappointed. Okay, I got that down pat. What message do I want her to know? I didn't like that you left me hanging. I felt like you left me hanging. Okay. What is the feedback I want from her? How do I want her to facilitate me? I want her to understand me, love me, and not do it again. Or communicate with me better. You just got your 5-minute elevator pitch for a conflict resolution conversation. Hey, BFF, you know I love you to pieces. I was going through a lot. The fact that you went to this vacation with your boyfriend and left me hanging disappointed me and hurt my feelings. In the future, I'd like for you to either communicate with me better so I can support you on your vacation, or just don't do that and have my back. Can you commit to that? That was about 30 seconds. But you just straight penetrate. And what happens is you don't lose your message. And then she can meet me there or not, and you continue to negotiate things out. That's a healthy way of doing it without being codependent. Codependency is, I don't like that you went for the weekend. If you do it again, the friendship's over. That's codependency. I'm putting you in a box. It may not come off that strong, but it's the same message no matter how you say it, potato, patata. But I'm giving her the freedom to be who she is and saying, I'll support you in who you are, but let me know what that looks like so I know, right, how to support myself or what to do with me in the event that happens again. Healthiness. Rely on your peer support. And boundaries will be everywhere in your life. Boundaries are the epitome of self-love. They're the epitome. Whenever a boundary is set, praise your self-love, because your self-love is the ones that says, not again, not today, it's not happening, absolutely not, nope, I need a break, we need to talk, I'm not tolerating that, that wasn't cool, we need some resolve. That's your self-love. Whenever you feel yourself swallowing your boundaries, check your self-love. Start to get your self-love up. That's all that it is. And as you see, what continues to pop up is rely on your peer support group. A lot of folks isolate. They isolate. My best friend does it. We've been best friends, I don't know, 20-something, I think 25 years. Maybe 30, but it's been a long time, since we were like 12. But she isolates still, and it's been 25 years. Right? She isolates when she's going through something. I have that knowledge of her, but it's unhealthy because when she isolates, she becomes more depressed because she's not allowing her peers to support her. And that is an unhealthy trait that she has that she's working on, right? Because I've poked at her and said, hey, I can't support you if I don't know you're hiding. And I can't always know that you're hiding. And if you need me to get into a box, and always know when you're hiding and you won't communicate with me, now you're being codependent. And I'm not going to enable your codependency of you depending on me to know when you have a problem. Do you see how that works? We do this in relationships all the time. I thought you would know. Well, why? They have a life too. They have problems too. They're not allowed to be human. And if you love me and respect me, then you will respect effective communication with me that says, I'm having an issue and I need you. That's also called emotional intelligence that we don't have up here. Emotional intelligence is getting in contact with how you feel and articulating that so that the people who love you, who are never going to be perfect, can support you and have your back. Because I'm not perfect. But when I reach out to her and I say, hey, what's up? And she's like, I'm fine. Sometimes my ego comes in and says, well, then let her be fine. You know, we've all been there. Like, you're not going to communicate, then fine. Because I am not a person who is good with codependency. You're not putting me in a box. And it's not because I'm some, Billy Bad ASS. It's because I have a lot of self-love. If there's one thing I was raised with that I am so grateful to I have 4 parents. I say my mom, my dad, and my grandparents. My parents had me as teenagers. And so I had the honor and privilege of having my grandparents raise me alongside my parents who were 16 and 17. So I was lucky to have 4 parents. I think it was awesome. But one thing they raised me with a lot of was self-love. A lot of self-love. Speak up for yourself. Set boundaries. If you don't like it, speak to me. Let me know. That's healthy. So you got to be able to check in with yourself. And I want all of you guys' homework, ladies and guys, to be, not only do you have 2 homeworks from this first session. Next session you may have more. I don't know yet. But 2 homeworks. Your first homework is I want you to check in with where your stress level is. Where are you on the burnout scale? Where are you? Take inventory. Where's my stress level? On one side. On the other side of the paper, I want you to write down what stresses you out. I don't care if it's as small as when my child wants to eat every 2 hours, it gets on my nerves. Don't feel the mommy guilt. Write it down. That's real. Be real. That stuff happens. Write it down. Me and my mother live together, and it's an honor that I'm able to live with her and be best friends and, take care of her. She contributes like crazy in the household, but she actually makes the house the home. I'm so grateful for that. But there's times where she knows, she talks too much because I'm an introvert when I'm at home, and she's an extrovert, and she wants to talk. I'm like, and I have to be okay with saying to her, Mom, because that becomes stressful for me. It does. I become system overload. I'm like, it's too much. I just walked in the door. I just finished work. I'm just getting off set. And she just is so happy to see me, and she missed me. And it's all from a good place, but it becomes too much for me. And so what do I have to do if I was doing my stress inventory? Because I've done this stress inventory, and Mom was on there. She probably was number 1 or 2. And I had to have a conversation with her and say, Mom, I'm an introvert. That's too much for me. I need my time to woosah. I need to sit in silence sometime for 30, 45 minutes. That's where my creativity comes. This is me emptying out me. And I have a good relationship with myself, so I love sitting with me. It's magical for me. And she said, okay, baby. And at the beginning, it took a little time, but now I'm so grateful because I notice her kind of check herself, right? And say, oh, you know what? I'm gonna go upstairs and go to bed, or I'm gonna go in the living room and watch TV, and she leaves me in my office, or she leaves me be. And then what that does for me is after a while, I'm so grateful for her respecting, being healthy, not codependent, that I'll end up telling myself, okay, it's been an hour, go in there and watch TV with your mom. Go in there and have a glass of wine with her. Go in there and love on her. And I'll go hug on her and kiss on her, and she's just like a little kid, like a 2-year-old kid, she just loves it. But I want to show you how effective communication, letting everybody be who they are, with no conditions, with no codependency, leads for healthy relationships. So write down your stress factors. The other thing is I want you to write down in what ways do you find yourself having some codependency signs? And in what ways do you find your partner having some codependency signs? If you need to take a picture of this, sure, go ahead and go for it so that you can have it for your inventory list. And then if you find this in you anywhere, I want you to start having conversations with the people that you believe you do this to and start your journey of becoming healthy and free. Because I want you to calibrate the free love, the unconditional, the good stuff, but you have to calibrate it in you or it doesn't come up any other way in life. Does that make sense? Yeah? Because this stuff is real. And this stuff will free you. I mean, and I know, how are we doing on time? We're okay? 12:20? Okay. And then we'll do a 10-minute break? Or no? Should I go right into it, or what do you want me to? Okay, so 5 more minutes and then we'll break? Okay. So I just want to self-disclose with you all, a little bit. Codependency was very much embedded in me. That's why I'm so passionate about this. And I understand the freedom that comes with it once you break it. I experienced a lot of abandonment as a little girl. So I grew up to be an abandoned woman. And as an abandoned woman, I just clenched on everything, right? Like everything. And I learned as a little girl how to perfectly control my environment in my circumstance, in my relationships as a little girl so that I can avoid trauma or pain, right? I had to make sure that I understood what was going on in the room so that I can survive that environment. And so when you grow up like that, and let me go back a little, most of us grew up in a household surviving and not thriving. We just did. So when you have to learn how to scheme the room, read people, you learn how to control, right? And put people in places they need to be in, even if it's in your own distorted narrative, so you can survive and be okay. And what happens is that little girl grew up and didn't know she was doing that and got into really loving relationships with really awesome men, because I can't knock them, and I wouldn't want to, but I can't knock them, who loved and facilitated me while I was running amok and being codependent. And I didn't even know I was doing this. It's like 19, 20 years old. And I was just controlling, and I was keeping in a box, and I felt like if this person even moved a little bit and touched the box, it freaked me out. Because guess what movement in the box or outside the box meant for me? Another heartbreak, a poke at my abandonment, a poke at my neglect, a poke at my trauma and my pain. And the pain that I felt as a little girl, not even knowing it subconsciously as a woman, I was going to do whatever I had to do to make sure I never felt that pain again. Even if that meant put someone in a box, which is an illusion anyways, because people really, they can take back their power and control whenever they want to. And I thought I had them in bondage, but guess who was in bondage? Because it's one heck of a job to try to run myself and control somebody else. It's exhausting. And then if they step outside the lines, then I'm impacted. So I'm impacted by trying to keep you in this box because of my abandonment says, don't move, don't move, don't move, don't move. It was a little girl in me was just saying, don't move, don't move. Oh my God, if you move, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know which way it's going to go. And I'm just so scared, right? And then one day the woman in me had a conversation and said, you're powerless like that. And if you want someone to love you unconditionally, you open up the box. If you want to see who you're choosing, you never create a box. You want to see who they are, you got to let them be free. You got to let them be authentic. Because then you not only know who you're choosing, but this is the most powerful, you know who you're not choosing. Either way it goes, you got to let people show you who they are. If I keep chopping down the trees in my garden before they harvest, I'll never know what harvest I had. And I was a little girl who grew up to be a young woman who was chopping down all the trees because the harvest that I experienced when I was younger was toxic. And it didn't feed me correctly. And then one day I said, I'm letting everything grow. And I'm trusting myself and I'm trusting the process. That whatever grows that's rotten, I'll plow out. Whatever grows that's healthy, I'll chow down on. And that's freedom. And from that place, I have healthy relationships. I'm healthier within myself. My best friend said many years ago when I, did my work, I'm still working always. She's like, what happened to you? She's like, you're so different. Like, you've always been mature, but it's like, you're like so free and not so controlling. And you're like, you're different. And I'm like, yeah, I'm free. And it feels good. And the people who are in my circle, guess what I learned? And I hope you learn this too. I never had to put them in a box to begin with because they were never there to hurt me anyways. They weren't there to do harm on me. I took my trauma, my stuff, and projected it on to my BFFs and my tribe, y'all, before giving you a chance to show me your heart and how dope and amazing you really are. So it's unfair to the codependent person, and it's unfair to the person in the box because we don't give them a chance to show up and show how awesome they really are. Make sense? I know this stuff is deep, huh? And I do this all day, every day, and I love it. It's like this is why I need my self-care days because I'm always deep and I love this stuff, but I love it most because when I'm sharing this, I've experienced most of it, and I've been there and I know what it feels like to have the gut crunching feelings and that fear and that what if this person does this and all the love fears and the relationship fears and the going to get a new job fears and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, when you do the work, it works and it dissipates that fear and it puts you in this really firm place within yourself. And that's where all the magic is. So I hope you all do your homework. We're going to take a quick 5-10 minute break. but I want all y'all to have all the magic I have and more. So I'm going to give you more magic the second session here. And yes, see y'all in a minute. All right, that's better. Okay, we're going. Thank you, Carolyn, my accountability sister. So we're going into grief, which is a challenging one. Again, grief creeps in, easy to get into, hard to get out of, and around the holidays, for myself, even as a psychology expert, life coach, many of my clients, the ones who are experiencing depression, this is where they dip, this is where they decline. My clients who are diagnosed with, just bipolar, schizoaffective, borderline, this is usually where they become more manic. If you all are familiar with manic, they go into the depressive episodes and things get really bad. Folks who have experienced divorce, even if the divorce wasn't recent, divorce could have been years ago, right? I have clients who still have all of their, ex-wife's photos and pictures in their house. And it's been 10, 15 years from divorce and the woman has moved on. Right? And obviously he hasn't. And so holidays are really, really challenging for him. But what is grief? I made it really simple because it is exactly that. It's our natural, or not even natural, but it's our natural response and sometimes unnatural response to loss. That loss could be anything. It can be a job. It could be a death. It could be a relationship. It can be a friend. It could be even the transition of moving from state to state, city to city. Anything you're attached to is a loss. And a lot of times, people are grieving themselves. And that's the part they don't know. They're grieving themselves. So the healing journey, right? It sounds like this magical thing, and it really is. It sounds like this really magical thing that takes place, and you heal, and it's awesome, and it gets dark, and it gets weird. But as you begin to heal, and you find pieces of yourself that don't serve you anyways, and you really don't want there at all, but as they leave you, oftentimes we grieve ourselves. And don't realize, and I have so many clients say to me, Dr. Bryant, how come I felt myself, getting better in my healing journey, and all of a sudden I'm just grieving, or my spirit has tanked. Like I thought I was doing good. No, you are doing good. You're actually doing amazing. What happened was you shed it, got rid of that part of you that we were processing and working so hard to rid, and now that it's gone, even if it's energetically that it's gone, you feel the absence of a piece of yourself. And you will grieve that. And so I wanted to make that, y'all aware of that, because folks usually look at grief as like something outside of us. But we oftentimes grieve ourselves. And we have to know that so we can get in contact with it, and we can also process and love on ourselves and be gentle with ourselves while we're going through our grieving process, which is not a bad thing if you're in your healing journey. It's actually a good thing, because you shed your metamorphosis, right? You shed from the caterpillar to the butterfly, and they show the caterpillar skinning, and they show the butterfly flying free, but they don't show the actual grieving between that caterpillar and that butterfly, and how that butterfly flies away and very free and happy, but also is looking back like, I want this growth, but it's still a part of me. And I know we've all been there. I've been there where I'm like, dang, I'm so happy to be here, but I'm like, she was kind of cool too, So be gentle with yourself. And then examples of it, right? I just said it: loss of close friend, death of a partner, serious illness of a loved one, breakup or death of family. And there's many more, of course, yourself and other things. It could be anything you're attached to, you could be grieving. So don't negate your emotions or your grieving just because it's not something on that list or not something that someone else deems, right, valuable for grieving. So there's different stages of grieving. First stage is you're usually in shock. You're like, this can't be happening to me. This is not true. You're in that surreal moment. When we lose a loved one, we usually get into that space of like, really? Is this real? Is this really happening? If it's a relationship, it could be like, I can't believe that this wedding is off, or this divorce is off, or this relationship is over, or this friendship is over. It was going so well. We've been rocking and rolling so good. Right? Then you go into denial. You try to avoid what's inevitable, right? Inevitable means you're avoiding what's going to happen anyways. It's going to happen, and you go into avoiding it. Most people stay in stage 2 longer than any stage. Denial. And let me say this. The denial stage is really prominent in relationships. When we know the relationship's over, We know it's over, but we're in denial, so we stay. So we're not even grieving the detachment from the relationship. We're grieving the fact that we know it's over, and we know that we're getting down to that stage that we know that we're in denial of, that we have to make a move, that we have to get out of this relationship, or we have to, in this job. We have to make this move. We already know that, but we haven't done it, and denial keeps us stuck in not being proactive, okay? And then anger. Once it really hits us that this is what's really going on, we get mad. We get mad at ourselves, we get mad at the situation, we get mad at the person, and we're just angry. We're very upset with everything because we're emotionally bottled up and just topped off, okay? And then you start to bargain. If I would have made that call, maybe he or she wouldn't have killed himself. If I would have showed up, maybe he or she would have been alive. I knew I should have made it to the hospital that one time because just maybe I could have injected some hope into this person. I knew I should have showed up for my best friend on that weekend when I went with my boyfriend on vacation. Because just maybe, right? I could have saved her or did something different. Those are all the bargaining stuff we do. What if I would have been more nicer or sweeter to her? Maybe she wouldn't have left me. Maybe he wouldn't have cheated if I would have wore lingerie more. What does number 2 say? Avoiding the inevitable. It was going to happen either way. It was going to happen either way. So the bargaining is just you trying to figure out a way of really helping your narrative make sense. Of bargaining, what could you have done? Nothing. Really nothing, because it is what it is. And then when you figure out that there was nothing you could have done, or if you create a narrative that says you could have done more, but you didn't, you go into depression. Because you realize what? The inevitable. You realize what was going to happen that you were trying to avoid has happened. It's here, and it's real, right? And the part that I love the most of this whole, all these stages that I always work my butt off to get my clients to, the testing. Because this is where they start to seek realistic solutions. And that's when I get excited, because I'm like, okay, they're starting to come out of the denial, and they're sitting in the reality of what's going on, and they're saying, okay, Dr. B, what are some of the solutions? Let's run these plays and see if they breed a result. Because now I'm ready to do what? Move forward. And that's the acceptance phase. There's so much power. All the power is in surrender and acceptance. This is what it is. This is what's going on with me. I don't like it, but this is what it is. So let me start to test realistic solutions. I'm here, I don't like it. How can I get out of this? I'm here, I don't like it. How can I thrive in this? Not survive. We're never trying to survive. We always want to thrive. Never survive, thrive. How do I thrive in this? How do I thrive in something I don't like or discomfort? And then you're able to move forward when you accept it. Denial and acceptance, opposites. So anytime you're grieving, and grieving isn't always crying, y'all. Grieving is also just an emotional state of being. Grieving could be isolation. It's not always just tears. Grieving could be the way you show up at the holidays for yourself in the relationships. And let me go further. Grieving could be the way you're not showing up for yourself or for your loved ones, but for yourself first. But the number one thing I want you to work on when it comes to this grieving process and stages are 2 things, 3 things. Accepting that this is what it is, as hard as it may be. I don't care who you're angry with. This is just what it is. Black is black, white is white. That is your best friend, to just accept what it is. Figure out, how the heck am I going to move through this? How can I move through it? And if you can't figure it out, reach out to folks that support you, professionals, I would say. Friends pretty much know what you know. Seek professional help. You can get a 15, 30-minute free consultation, get whatever you can if you can't afford it. If you can't afford it, do it. But get the help to say, how in the heck do I move from where I'm at to somewhere else? Because if I stay here any longer, I'm going back to depression. And that acceptance. When you accept it, you've started up the engine. You put that thing in drive, even if you're just backing out of your driveway. But guess what? Backing out means you're on your way. You're not parked, all right? And then how do you process it? The number one thing, I don't care what stage you're in, Be gentle with yourself. You never have permission, ever have permission, ever, as long as I'm your coach or I'm up here facilitating, to beat yourself up. You cannot beat yourself down and build yourself up at the same time. They don't coexist. Like, that is not negotiable. It's not acceptable. Never on my watch, not on your watch. You always have to be gentle with you. That is non-negotiable. Got it? Got to be gentle with yourself. Why? Because you deserve it. And 2, people treat you at the level that you treat yourself. I am so gentle with myself. Not saying I always have been, but I am so gentle with myself. So gentle. And I always say to my guy, I say, you're so gentle with me. Like, you're just so gentle with me. And I didn't have to put him in a box or become codependent or clench hard, right? Or become this abandoned little girl. The little girl in me she's like, I'm chilling, I like him, he's gentle. I'm like, you're just so gentle. But guess what? I am so gentle with myself. So my law of attraction would have repelled anything opposite of what I am. Did you hear what I said? My law of attraction, which is how I am with me, your law of attraction is how you are with you, will repel anything that is not in you because it can't align. Manifestation happens at the point of alignment. If we don't align, we don't manifest a friendship. But I'm gentle with me. In the way that I am with me, I'm going to love on you. And I will get that from you. So accept your feelings and what? Surrender, accept your grieving process. Your grieving process. I had to do it over, I think 4 weeks ago. I was headed to one of my best friend's father's funeral, who was like a father to me. And then I got a call in the morning, headed to his funeral, about a health condition that was really, really challenging for our family, pertaining to my father. I'm like, look at life. I'm headed to my best friend's father's funeral. I get a call regarding my father, and I'm in the car, and everything in me, my whole DNA was just breaking, like, and I'm like, oh, I'm trying to keep it up, right? Because look, I'm just trying to make sure that I can bargain with myself to say, okay, if I just keep it up, I'll be okay. And I'm breaking and I'm fighting and I'm just resisting. And I just stopped and surrendered to what I felt. My mom was in the passenger seat. My mom's always with me, huh? But she's in the passenger seat. And I just stopped at the stop sign. And I just surrendered to what I felt. And I just, at the stop sign, and she's like, oh, baby. And I'm like, I just had, it was just too much, right? But that's okay. I surrendered. I was grieving all that stuff, all at once. And it doesn't mean that my cape wasn't on while I was crying. My cape was still on, honey. I didn't take my cape off, right? My cape actually tightened up for me because I was able to be strong enough to be in my power of what I was feeling. And it helped me. So by the time I got through the funeral, because I had to leave the funeral just to get to my father, because it was emergency case, I was able to be put together the way I want to show up for him. Because I allowed myself to be in me and in my moments, right? And so don't isolate. I put the knot huge. Isolation breeds depression. Isolation breeds I should walk around with it on my head. Isolation is depression. Don't breed it. It's depression. Solitude is not isolation. When I meditate, I'm in solitude. When I tell my mom I need an hour of me time, I'm in solitude. When I take my walks, that I have a creek, whatever, by my house, and I take my walks by myself, I'm in solitude. I'm not isolating. But isolation is you want to be away because you're trying to hide your pain or your wounds or your feelings. Or you don't want folks to see, so you don't feel like putting your mask on that day. So you just want to keep your mask off and isolate. No isolation, okay? And this is huge. Who's your friends and family? And when I put friends with an S, it can be one. It doesn't have to be 15. Some of us are just not social bugs like that. I get that. It can be 1 or 2 friends, male or female. Who are these people? And if you don't have them, oh well, go find them. It's okay. You can Google on, Eventbrite. They have all these different social events. They have walks on the beaches. They have all this stuff. Seriously, do a wine party, a paint party. Just put yourself out there and be who you are when you're there so you can attract who belongs to you. So that you can be in authentic, real relationships, because that's where the fun and the love is, right? What are your hobbies? What are your hobbies? A lot of folks, we get so caught up in work, in business, in being who we need to be. We forget who the heck we are, and then who we need to be doesn't have hobbies, because who we need to be is not who we are. Hobbies are things that we love to do. And who you are is the only thing that can tell you what you love to do. And create that list based on you, not based on something or someone or dogma outside of you. And dogma is what? Caring about what people think or believe. It's codependency. It's showing up in a way that you know you need to for people to be okay with you. It's dogma. You care about what society thinks. You care about what the folks next to you think. If you're being a kind person and you're proud of how you're showing up, then you're good. You've checked all the marks. Keep showing up. The main thing is to attract your village, because there's no better freedom than that. I'm telling you, no, my cap up, my recharge, I'm telling you, I go to my best friend's house. She stays right there in Long Beach by the beach. And I go over there again. You guys know I love my sweats, my pizza. She has these peanuts that have this like salt, sugar stuff that she gets from Walmart, and she knows when I'm coming, so she buys them for me, right? And sometimes if she buys them, I don't come, she gets mad. She's like, I bought you all this stuff. I'm like, girl, I'm tired. But when I get there, she blows up this really big air mattress. I'm not exaggerating. And I'm 40, she's 39, we're grown. She blows up, and she has a bed, and she has a couch. But I'm always excited. I'm like, are you gonna blow the air mattress up? And she's like, oh my God. And she says, oh my God, yes, for you, yes. So she blows this big old air mattress. I think it's like a queen size. And then we like put all these pillows and blankets on there, and we sit on the air mattress, and we just put on all these different movies. And I'm not even a movie person. We put on all these movies. I eat the whole time. She falls asleep probably in 30, 45 minutes. But yeah, I know, because we're old, right? But then we have so much fun, and usually I spend the night, or I'll leave like at 2 or 3 a.m., and she's like, just spend a night. And if I do come over there and work close, she already has sweats put out for me, because that's my girl, that's my village. And so when I'm there, even if I start to talk, just more businessy, or where she says Dr. Bryant, it's funny, she will like playfully check me. She's like, girl, you're not writing a research paper. You're not doing a presentation, because I do this so much that this is me. And so I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. But I say that to say, we just do whatever, right? And that's my village, and that keeps me centered, and it recharges me. And so it's important for y'all to find that. Even the men, and I get on the men a lot about this because it's so important. I said it last workshop, men, you guys died 10 years earlier than us. Not because we kill you off, you kill yourself off. We love you. We want you around. But you do not practice self-care. You do not. And you do not communicate your emotions. You do not. And I'm not going to argue with you. You don't. Yes. And I get why you don't a lot of the times, because the folks around you, and I'm going to take accountability, especially the women, we don't always facilitate you in the ways that you need to be facilitated. And we personalize it, and we make it about us. And it's not about us, and it's about you. And society also tells you to shut up, make the bacon, and be a man. But that's so unfair, because you do have value. You do have a voice, and you deserve to be heard and be loved. And so a lot of men, knowingly and a lot of them unknowingly, are in codependent relationships. Not even because their partner has them having to be like that, because learned behavior or society has shaped them to think this is the ideology of what makes a good man or a good husband. And if he complains too much or has too much emotions, then what? It emasculates him. But a healthy relationship is when you have a table and everybody brings whatever loaf they're bringing. I may bring wheat, he might bring white bread, but whatever we got going on, I respect his bread, he respects my bread, and we break bread together. And that's healthy. That's healthy. Bless you. So I want the men, your homework is to make a self-care list. Everything I like to do that my wife or partner doesn't like, I'm just playing. I don't want to get you in trouble, but make a list that says, right? Make a list that's everything I love to do. Everything I used to love to do when I was a young boy, when I was a teenager, when I was a 20, whatever it is, write that list out. And once a week, you have to commit to taking one thing off that list and doing it. And you have to time block it. If 2 hours, 6 hours, that's your homework. What I used to love to do, what used to top me off, what used to fill me up, what made me feel like I was that, I always tell people, that youthful teenage person again. Because that's when we were free. That's when we figured out what we liked. And do it. And when you do it, you have to be fully present in it. Fully, you ain't checking no emails. You're not worried about who cares. You're not worried about the husband, daddy guilt, the I'm too old to do this guilt. Because I'm not guilty when I'm on my air mattress in front of the TV with my best friend eating all my nuts. I don't even care. I'll just work it off tomorrow. And she eats a lot, and she eats unhealthy too. And sometimes I dive in with her. But men, can y'all all commit to that? If the men commit to it, go woo woo. Okay, let's try it again. If the men commit to that, go woo woo. Wait. Okay, on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's a little better. Good. So you got to self-care yourself. It's so important. All right. Right? Signs that you are a loved one or experiencing grief. What does that look like? Grief looks like sorrow. They become numb to emotion, but even emotionless toward you, right? So this is the thing when I was talking about men and when they become numb to emotion. Their partners tend to personalize that piece. So it doesn't allow them, it disables them from being in that emotion. Or they have to find out where to put that emotion. Or they don't find out where to put it and they shut down. And then the partner is mad because you're shutting down and you're not available. Well, he's not available because you weren't available or you're not facilitating. And it's not because you don't want to. Maybe you don't have the tools to do so. So come see me in session and I will help you out. But seriously, this is real talk. This is how I see this. I've been doing this 16 years. I see this relationship cycle go. And the husband sitting in session and I'm describing this and he's going, and he's just shaking his head and he doesn't want to say too much because he has to ride home with her. And he understands that, he's like, you should come to her more often by yourself. So, I've been on an airplane talking to couples and he's like, do you have a card? I think we should come to you. But it's because men need that facilitation. So men, I want y'all to start to work on not being in your codependent box, but coming out and saying, hey, I feel this way, to your loved one, to your partner, to your friends, to somebody. So you can externalize what you're internalizing, because the internalizing of stuff is what causes health conditions. And that's why you're dying before us. And I want y'all around. I love my men. So anger, this one's physical health. Remember, grief, pain, depression will always attack you physically. Always. As it is in here, internal, you will have externally. It's direct alignment. Look at that, increased inflammation, arthritis, joint pain, muscle pain. That's inflammation. Swelling up. Headaches, digestive problems. And it lowers your immunity. And if it's lowering your immunity, then what happens? You become more apt to what? Sickness. So you put yourself in a position of even becoming more sicker than you are. So if you see any of those signs, know that the person is grieving. And so what do you do as a facilitator, as the loved one? You support them, I always say, like soil does to a rose. It doesn't tell the rose to grow faster or higher or to the left or to the right. Soil just facilitates. And what does it do? It nurtures. It nurtures. And when that rose grows up and then it goes away and it comes back for the season, guess what's still there? The soil. You want to be loved and you want to be healthy? Be like soil. You want to be free and not codependent? Be like soil. It just facilitates. That's all it does. The seed does its own thing. So be like soil, right? The importance of self-care. It encourages you to maintain a healthy relationship within yourself, which results in healthy relationships with other people. Because you can't give to others what you don't have within yourself. You just can't do it. at all. And so how do you figure out what you want to attract in others? You ask yourself, how do I want to be treated? How do I want to feel? How am I expecting these other people to treat me? And they're not. Okay, so let me start doing that to myself. Now, I do have to say this. When you first start to do all these things that you want these outside people to do, yeah, you still feel lonely and it feels weird. And sometimes it feels like completely stupid because you're like, I don't want to go on a date by myself. I get you. I don't want to sit, in the tub by myself and drink a glass of wine. I don't want to go for a walk by myself. I want a partner. I want intimacy. I want to connect. I want to fuse. Yes, we all do. But you're defusing, and your reason for not being able to connect is because you're disconnected within yourself. And so folks can't connect to what's not connected. And if I am a woman who's doing all this work and I'm connected, but I'm not perfect, I'm still a mess, but I'm getting my mess together and I'm healing and I'm an extreme love bug and I have this self-love, and then, you and I are attempting to have a friendship, we are not going to fuse. Because if you are disconnected and always in a crisis or always in an issue, which is okay if that's where you are, but that's why you want to take the inventory of how do you get out of that, right? Then we can force it, but it won't organically fit because we're in two different places. I won't calibrate you naturally. Does it mean that we can't hang out and you can't see and spy on how I do the things I do? Because that's important. We talked about that, some of that shadow work last workshop. But the important thing is to say, how I want to be treated, am I treating myself that way? Am I walking around with an arrogance? And that's why I'm experiencing arrogance in people. And I don't like it. Because I say it in my book, Mental Detox. If you spot it, you got it. If you spot it, you got it. You don't have to believe it. But if you spot it, you got it. So what I do is throughout the day, how I measure myself, I start to pay attention to my interaction with people. The regular people, like at the cleaners, the grocery store. And I can start to feel my disposition by how people respond to me. And I will shift in here my experience of out here. And everything shifts. It really does. Try it. It's magic, right? So it improves your physical health, reduces stress and anxiety, boosts your self-esteem, and it leads to better relationships, right? And I put self-care is not selfish. And I put that guy up there because I just thought he was so cute. I don't know. He just